Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, let's just be totally honest for a second. For most of us, trying to get a mortgage, it doesn't actually feel like buying a home. It feels way more like sitting down for this terrifying, high-stakes math test, where one wrong answer ruins everything. It's incredibly stressful. And it's weird, right? Because this is probably the biggest financial decision we're ever going to make. But what if it didn't have to be this rigid pass-or-fail exam? Today, we're looking at the methods of Art Loera. He's a Reno and Tahoe-based mortgage specialist, and we're going to break down exactly how he takes this complex, anxiety-inducing banking machine and flips it into a deeply personalized, successful life moment.
Okay, let's dive into this because Art operates on this really simple but honestly pretty radical philosophy. He says, "These are not transactions to me, they're life moments." Think about your standard, impersonal bank processing for a minute. Usually, you know the drill. You're just a file number on a desk in some massive echoing call center somewhere. But Art looks at it completely differently. When he looks at a file, he's thinking about the family physically crossing the threshold of their first home. He's picturing the veteran finally owning a piece of the land they actually serve to protect. Or, the self-employed entrepreneur finally building equity instead of just throwing money away on rent. That core philosophy, that is exactly what sets him apart from the whole factory line banking model.
And that brings us to this massive contrast, the difference between a gatekeeper and a guide. Standard loan processing, it operates exactly like a gatekeeper. They've got these super rigid rules, these copy-paste loan templates, and if your life doesn't fit perfectly into their little pre-cut box, well, they just stamp denied and move on. But Art uses what he calls strategic transaction management. He's acting as a guide. He's offering totally custom solutions, direct personal access, and a strategy that actually flexes to fit the real, messy realities of your life. It makes perfect sense why the standard model fails so many buyers with unique needs and why this method just consistently gets it done.
So the crucial point here is that strategic transaction management isn't just some fancy corporate buzzword. It's a completely inverted approach to lending. Instead of just grabbing a generic mortgage product off the shelf and trying to shove a client into it, Art starts every single file by asking one essential question. What is the absolute best path to close this specific loan? He literally looks at the whole board, your income, your credit, your exact timeline, your long-term goals, and he reverse engineers the entire strategy from the ground up to fit exactly what you actually need.
Now, to actually pull off that kind of custom strategy, you need a massive toolkit. And Art isn't just doing your run-of-the-mill conventional loans, he's working with FHA and VA loans for specific buyer needs. He's doing jumbo loans for luxury properties, and this is huge. He handles non-QM and DSCR loans, which are lifesavers for self-employed entrepreneurs and real estate investors. He even does down payment assistance and 203K renovation loans for houses that need, some serious TLC. His ability to brilliantly mix and match all these options, that's the exact reason he's closing loans that other loan officers literally just throw their hands up at.
You might be wondering, how does one person even offer all these incredibly diverse options? Well, it's because Art isn't just a broker. He's a branch manager at PRMG. That's a direct lender and one of the top 100 mortgage banks in the entire country. And that status gives him direct insider access to exclusive Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae programs. Operating at this high institutional level means he's bringing loan products, special overlays, and approval pathways to the table that your standard retail bank or that smaller local shop down the street simply do not have. And backing up all of that access is one seriously heavy-hitting number, 25. That is 25 plus years of mortgage lending experience. Art got into the finance world back in 1992 and dedicated himself strictly to mortgages in 1999. I mean, just think about what the housing market has gone through in the last quarter century. He has successfully navigated his clients through the absolute chaos of the 2008 housing crash, a global pandemic, and some of the wildest interest rate swings imaginable. The market is constantly shifting, but his commitment, that doesn't budge. Having that kind of battle-tested, resilient experience in your corner is absolutely invaluable.
And this brilliantly illustrates how that quarter century of experience is paired with some incredibly deep local roots. Art has lived and worked in the northern Nevada and California markets for over 30 years. He proudly serves the Reno, Tahoe, and Sierra Front areas. He actually compares his knowledge of this specific market to how a local contractor knows a building. Like he knows every load-bearing beam, every hidden crack. He's literally watched Reno evolve from a mid-sized gaming town into this booming western metro. When you're making a massive investment in a specific area, you desperately need a guide who actually knows the terrain.
And that deep community connection really shines through in his genuine bilingual service. Art says it perfectly. Spanish is not a service feature on my profile. It is my heritage. Listen, for Spanish-speaking families, the mortgage process can be completely full of translation gaps, And in real estate, translation gaps don't just cause confusion, they literally cost you money. Art makes absolutely sure that Spanish-speaking clients receive every single disclosure, every complex strategy session, and every tough conversation in their native language, directly from him. No third-party translators, no confusing form letters, just direct, clear communication.
Take the Hernandez family as a perfect example of this, because Art guided them step by step and actually took the time to explain the complex nuances of an FHA loan in Spanish. They were able to buy their first home with absolute total confidence. They never felt left in the dark. They never felt unsure about what they were signing. This is exactly what we mean when we talk about personal dedication. He took what could have been a terrifying, rigid transaction and turned it into an incredibly successful life moment for them.
Which brings us to another number that I want to just pause on for a second. 312. That's not just a statistic. That is 312 verified public promises kept. We're talking about the 5-star reviews Art has racked up across major platforms like Birdeye, Google, and Experience.com, where he maintains a perfect 5.0 average rating. And as Art puts it, these reviews, they aren't just marketing fluff. They are a permanent, public record of his long-term dedication to hundreds of families over decades of service.
Let's actually listen to what one of those promises sounds like. Michael and Andrea out in South Lake Tahoe wrote this. After 25 years, he's still answering texts at 9 p.m. That is who you want when your closing date is on the line. I mean, just think about that for a second. The contrast is staggering. You have the massive, unreachable, automated bank on one hand, and on the other, you have a financial strategist personally answering your texts at 9 p.m. He doesn't just process your file, hand it off to some nameless department, and ghost you when things get complicated. He is right there in the trenches with you.
Let's move to this next point and see how this builds, because that 9 p.m. text, it's not just a one-off thing. It's baked into his entire communication framework. No call centers, no getting trapped in a voicemail maze. Step 1, you get his direct cell phone number. Step 2, you can text him personally whenever a random question pops into your head. Step 3, he promises direct email responses within 1 business day. And Step 4, he's available 7 days a week, including weekends for urgent requests. When you call, you aren't calling a faceless corporation. You are calling Art.
All of this unparalleled personal service rests on what Art calls his 4 pillars: dedication, communication, determination, and trust. But honestly, it's the why behind these pillars that's so cool. He points out that when he sits across from a young couple trying to buy their first home, he sees the exact same hope that he carries for his own children. He treats his clients' financial futures with the exact same care he wants for his own family's legacy. He's not just some broker looking for a quick commission. He's an experienced financial strategist who's deeply, deeply invested in his community.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, it brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself before stepping into the real estate market. Are you ready for a true mortgage strategist, or are you just going to settle for a processor? Are you okay with being just another file sitting on a desk, or do you demand a lifelong partner who will relentlessly fight for your financial legacy? It's a huge decision for sure, and understanding this strategic personal approach, it completely changes the game. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it gave you some fantastic insights into the art of home lending.